A channel is a pair of roughly parallel lines, the more parallel the better, on a chart which seem to bound prices, representing support at the bottom and resistance at the top. Within slope charts, the way to draw a channel is simple because there's a drawn object called channel right here, and I'm not going to actually draw it over precise prices right now, but just to rough things out, you basically click an anchor point and then click a second anchor point, and at that point another horizontal is shown parallel to that, and a midline shown as a dotted line is also drawn. This, of course, doesn't bound any prices. It's just kind of randomly plopped on top of the chart, so I'll get rid of it. But I've got a series of charts here to illustrate good examples of actual channel patterns. This here is the long-term continuous contract of Treasury bonds. Here is Apple. Now, at first it may not look like a channel, but it's a smaller channel here because this chart spans back to 1980. But more recently, you can see here that the stock has been moving up and down within the confines of the channel, and even, and this is important, this helps validate a channel's utility. It also seems to have some adherence to the midline, represented here by this dotted line. It seems to be clinging to that and recognizing that as its own level of support or resistance. Here's AmerisourceBergen, symbol ABC, and you can see here support, resistance, support, and then resistance here, and then support again. Many of these trend lines span decades. These are very slow moving patterns, and the utility, as you can see here, is to recognize major levels of support and resistance. So as the stock was crumbling away here, what one would have been waiting for and anticipating would be a tag of that lower trend line, which ultimately came much later right here. Here's another example with AEE, Amarin, and here in the right half of the chart is a very clean channel. We zoom in there, and the midline is shown as well. Here's Federal Express, FDX. This one, you can probably tell with your eye, it's not quite parallel. It's a little bit skewed. It tightens ever so slightly over the decades, but it's still useful enough to leave. You don't want things that are completely unparalleled because it becomes a different creature altogether. But this is certainly close enough to be helpful. Here is a symbol HP, and this one is extremely close to parallel. And as you can see here, as of this recording, it looks like we're approaching an important support level. Lockheed Martin, LMT, as with FedEx, not quite perfectly parallel, but still quite useful. And we're approaching the peak on this one, what would be resistance. This is the ETF for the S&P 100, symbol OEF. The red line showing resistance, the green line showing support. And the last example is Ryder System, symbol R. And in this instance, here we have resistance and support. And we're working our way down toward what ultimately should be a tag of support somewhere in the lower 30s.